Christopher Kimball made a name for himself as the bowtie-wearing, recipe-obsessed host of America's Test Kitchen. Then, one day, he was gone. So was Kimball fired, or did he quit? Here's what really happened. Before he became a television personality, Christopher Kimball cut his teeth in publishing. In a world of fluff-heavy cookbooks, Kimball's first foray into culinary journalism was Cook's Magazine, which offered a refreshing and innovative approach to cooking.
And so that's my modest proposal, is to teach Americans a different way of cooking.
The magazine rigorously examined recipes and showed cooking enthusiasts how they could replicate them at home. Released in 1980 with $100,000 Kimball managed to secure from investors, the publication was so successful that the chef managed to sell it to Condé Nast Publications in 1990. Kimball ended up buying his venture back from the publishing company for $175 in 1993 and relaunching it as Cook's Illustrated the same year. Despite its black and white format and emphasis on subscriptions rather than advertisements, Cook's Illustrated did well, and by the time Kimball and the publication parted ways, the cooking magazine had attracted close to 900,000 paid subscribers. Some of the renowned writers and culinary experts who have contributed to the publication include a former New York Times columnist, Mark Bittman, and the author of the book The Food Lab, J. Kenji Lopez-Alt. The success and expansion of Cook's Illustrated gave rise to other projects, including the hit television cooking show America's Test Kitchen. The show was hosted by Kimball until his replacement by Julia Collin-Davison and Bridget Lancaster in 2017. Christopher Kimball relinquished control over Cook's Illustrated, America's Test Kitchen, and a cooking show called Cook's Country after he said he was fired in 2015 by Boston Common Press, the parent company behind the ventures. At the time, Boston Common Press stated that the split was amicable, but things certainly didn't appear that way. Overseeing a workforce of 180 employees, the company's board made a strategic decision to shift its management trajectory. To execute this plan, it appointed David Nussbaum as the new CEO. Nussbaum explained the split between Boston Common Press and the former face of the company, telling Boston.com, "Quite frankly, the owners realized Chris is about 65, and they had to think of a long-term succession plan." According to Nussbaum, the main reason behind the breakup was a contract disagreement. As reported by the Los Angeles Times, Nussbaum wrote in an email to employees, he was asked to stay with the company and focus his talents on creativity, on-air presence, and in-person appearances. Despite our interest in having him stay, and after negotiating with him in good faith for many months, he ultimately rejected that approach. Even after his departure, Kimball continued to appear as the host of America's Test Kitchen in 2016, since the next season of the show had already been recorded. After his exit from America's Test Kitchen, Christopher Kimball wasted no time before embarking on a new project. Using $6 million from investors, Kimball founded CPK Media, also known as Christopher Kimball's Milk Street, in 2016. The company's name is derived from the location of its headquarters, the iconic Flour and Grain Exchange building on Milk Street in Boston. Referred to by Kimball as a startup, CPK Media has allowed the chef to take a more hands-on approach than America's Test Kitchen, which suits him just fine, he told the Washington Post. "I like startups. I like being involved with everything. I don't love running a company with 200 people and just going to meetings all the time." CPK Media offers a range of culinary resources, including a television show, a magazine, a radio show, cooking classes, and live cooking demonstration events. Christopher Kimball's new venture prompted a legal dispute with Boston Common Press, which didn't like the fact that its former figurehead turned into a competitor. Boston Common Press officials sued Kimball for breach of trust, alleging that he was developing the concept for CPK Media during his tenure at their company. According to the lawsuit, Kimball, who is still a partial owner of Boston Common Press, appropriated its resources and used the relationships he made during his time at the company to come up with his own competing venture. America's Test Kitchen Chief Creative Officer, Jack Bishop, explained that the parallels between the two companies were just too extreme, telling the Boston Globe, "Seeing the physical magazine was the last straw." In late 2016, Christopher Kimball filed a countersuit, alleging that Boston Common Press's legal action resulted in the loss of potential investments for his company valued in the millions of dollars. In addition, Kimball alleged defamation, asserting that the website whywearesuingchristopherkimball.com damaged his reputation. The site is no longer active. The 3-year legal dispute between the media giants was settled in 2019, after the two parties managed to reach an agreement, avoiding costly litigation. While not a great deal of details about the settlement were offered, both sides agreed to certain business terms that would let them coexist in the marketplace, according to a press release. One of the conditions of the settlement saw Kimball sell his America's Test Kitchen shares to Boston Common Press. While America's Test Kitchen focused on classic recipes and cooking techniques, Milk Street, which premiered on public television stations in 2017, takes a somewhat different approach.
I think what I've learned at Milk Street is there is no such thing as perfect authenticity.
The show scours the globe in search of fresh flavors and cooking techniques that viewers can learn from and utilize from the comfort of their own kitchens. Christopher Kimball explained the philosophy behind the show in an interview with GBH, saying, "When traveling around the world, food writers used to have the approach of, 'How exotic?' At Milk Street, we're taking an opposite tact. How does the average home cook in Mumbai cook? Or Chiang Mai? We're not looking for something exotic, we're looking for something everyday."
It's all about the people. It's always about the people because they teach you so much.
Focusing on different flavors and textures, Milk Street sees Kimball examine both the recipes and the stories behind them, as well as how people around the world think about the food they eat. And rather than trying to replicate authentic recipes, Milk Street aims to make them accessible to home cooks across the US. Julia Child was a force of nature that won't be easily forgotten. The chef, author, and television personality revolutionized the culinary world with her unique approach to food and cooking. While Christopher Kimball has had the pleasure of cooking and sharing meals with countless celebrity chefs, meeting Child definitely stood out as one of his more memorable experiences. Calling her the ultimate teacher, Kimball told GBH that he was particularly impressed with the way Child could take unusual cooking concepts and explain them in a way that made them accessible to the general public.
And that was her gift, was taking something foreign at the time and making it familiar.
Kimball told GBH about the time Child invited him to her home in Cambridge, Massachusetts for a friendly cook-off. Reflecting on the experience, he recalled her competitive spirit and how she challenged him to prove his culinary prowess. He said, "She gave me a whole plate of oysters to open. At the time, I was a terrible oyster shucker. She came over and said, 'Do you need some help, dearie?' And I said, 'No, I don't need help. I need a glass of wine. You shuck the oysters.'"
And after that, we got along great.
The naming of Christopher Kimball's Milk Street media empire after the location of its Boston headquarters initially stirred up trouble for the venture. In 2016, Mark Epstein, the owner of the nearby Milk Street Cafe, situated at 50 Milk Street, filed a lawsuit against Kimball when his request to change the name of the new cooking endeavor was turned down. The Milk Street Cafe had been an established business for over 35 years, while CPK Media, located at 177 Milk Street, was a relatively new player in the area. According to Epstein, the public was likely to confuse the two businesses due to the similarity in their names. In fact, the restaurant owner said that he had even received job applications from individuals thinking that he was associated with Kimball's venture. At the end of the day, Epstein ended up losing his trademark suit, with the judge concluding that there was no reasonable chance of confusion between the names. The first 10 seasons of Cook's Country weren't just hosted by Christopher Kimball, they were also filmed at the fully equipped kitchen at his 200-year-old restored home in the small town of Rupert, Vermont. Each year, an entire season of the show was shot at what was affectionately referred to as Carver House over a period of just 2 weeks. Following Kimball's departure from the company, the running of the show was taken over by hosts Bridget Lancaster and Julia Collin Davison. Its filming location also moved to a set inside the Boston headquarters of America's Test Kitchen. While Kimball was on the show, the team behind Cook's Country transformed his quaint dwelling each season into a hub of culinary exploration, where chefs whipped up delectable recipes and shared their passion for cooking with viewers. Kimball explained the decision to film the show at the stately home in an interview with Edible Vermont, saying, "I felt that if the show were here, if you had a real place with its own feeling instead of just being a TV set, viewers would respond." Today, the entire Carver House or its commercial kitchen can be rented on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis. For those interested, the 1,000 square foot kitchen is composed of more than 100 linear feet of prep space, 8 gas ovens, 2 6-burner cooktops, 3 dishwashers, 3 microwaves, and a walk-in refrigerator. In an effort to make a positive contribution to the society, CPK Media works with several food and non-food related charitable organizations. These partnerships are supported by income generated by the company's cooking school and online store. The 3 nonprofits that CPK Media actively cooperates with are Food Corps, Boys and Girls Club of Dorchester, and Big Sister Association of Greater Boston. CPK Media has been working with Food Corps to promote better nutrition through healthy eating habits since 2021. To help Food Corps achieve its goals, the company provides training in areas such as cooking and education, as well as food-related media production and marketing. In 2016, CPK Media partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of Dorchester to offer cooking classes and leadership development programs for teenagers. Since 2016, CPK Media has also been involved in the Big Sister Association of Greater Boston. The organization, which works with girls from the Boston area and youth from across the country, offers both cooking classes and career coaching. When Christopher Kimball interviewed Melissa Baldino for the job of his assistant in 2002, little did he know that he was meeting his future wife. After more than a decade as co-workers, the duo tied the knot at the Memorial Church in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 2013. Notably, Kimball wasn't over the moon about Baldino's talents when they first met, and he gave the job to somebody else. It was only after his first prospect resigned 2 months into the job that Kimball backtracked and offered Baldino the position. Things worked out, and in 2006, Kimball promoted Baldino to be executive producer of America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Country. The relationship between Kimball and Baldino was strictly platonic until the former America's Test Kitchen frontman separated from his second wife in 2010. It was sometime in early 2011 when Baldino arranged a meeting with Kimball to tell him of her feelings. Today, the couple has 2 children, Oliver Kimball, who was born in 2014, and Wright Kimball, who came along in 2019. Baldino is also the co-founder of CPK Media, where she works as a producer.